Hey everyone, today we're going to make these 3D bloom coasters. I have already mixed the resin and I let it sit for about 5 minutes. This is the Let's Resin 1-to-1 ratio uh, by volume. And I'm just giving it a little bit of a final stir here. It is about 35 degrees centigrade. And I'm going to double check that here in a minute. So let's see. I don't think I'm going to get 4 coasters out of this. I'm probably going to get 3. And I'm only filling these molds about 2/3 full. I want to leave room to put the black backing on later. So yeah, we're going to stick with the 3. And let's go ahead and put a little bit more in this one. And let's go ahead and do this one. Apologies for the big hands in the screen. And I'll put a little more here, but then I need to also make sure I save enough for the white portion for the blooms. All right, give this a quick go over with my long neck lighter here. You want to do this very quickly so that you don't burn your molds and you don't burn your resin. If you've watched my other videos, you've heard me say this quite a few times. I didn't do this step before and I regretted it with some of my work, so now I do it with most of my work, whether I see bubbles or not. And now I'm just going around the edges with a dotting tool. You could do this with a toothpick if you wanted. Sometimes you'll get bubbles that cling to the edges because it is resin on silicone. Brody says, hey everybody. Brody the cat here with me today. He's probably going to get mad at me for not giving him attention. So just going around the edges. Popping a few bubbles here. All right, let's check that temperature. Yeah, it's about 36.4, so that's good. If the resin gets too warm, it is sometimes hard for the alcohol ink to bloom. So I am experimenting with this and I'm trying to do this around 35 to 36 degrees to see how nicely the blooms turn out. Then I'm going to be using this gold flakes for the middle, for the center of the flower, if I can get it open. And let me get this out of the way. You've also seen me spill resin all over the place in previous videos, so I don't want to have an accident today if possible. So I'm just going to add these into each coaster. And I'm not worried about whether it's dead center right now. I am eventually going to put a little measured mark on the backs of these coasters to help me out in the future, but right now I'm not going to worry about it a whole lot. I just want to get these in and then we'll eyeball it and come as close to center as we can. The other reason I don't worry about it is it tends to move with the resin and alcohol ink. So even if you have it dead center, it's potentially going to move and you're going to have some renegade flakes that are going to move away from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and push these into the center and make sure they're completely covered with resin. There also can be some air bubbles underneath on the bottom of this, so I want to make sure as I'm doing this that I go back and I get rid of any air that may be there, any bubbles underneath. And we'll do that with the long neck lighter. I'm just going to move these around a bit. And you can always fast forward through this part if you don't want to watch me fiddle with the gold flakes in the center. These are actually really nice gold pieces, and I'll put in the description all of the products that I used to make these coasters today, where you can get these on Amazon. I am an Amazon associate, so I may earn a commission from qualifying purchases when you click on my link. So just to give you a heads up on that. As a beginner, though, I think it's really important that as you're watching these videos, you understand what products people are using. It's so confusing, and there's so much out there to choose from. So I like to always list my products. I too am a relatively new beginner at this. I've only been doing this for about maybe 5, 6 months, and the blooms are even newer. So I like to make sure that I let everybody know what I'm using. Also, I don't want to spend a lot of money on expensive tools. Again, you've heard me say that on other videos, but for those of you that haven't seen a video, I like to try to use basic tools, and then we'll get fancy later on when I know that I'm going to do this for the long haul. I'm going to be using some alcohol ink by Let's Resin, and this is the Sapphire Blue. I'm going to be using a couple different colors today, and they will all be down in the links below in the description. Just want to shore this up a little bit. I'm always wiping off my tools just to keep my area clean. So I'm going to put a drop. The Sapphire Blue, I think I'm running out of this, so it's been kind of hard for me to get this to come out. So be patient with me. And you'll see it's spreading very nicely in the resin, which means the temperature hopefully is just right. Nice flower on that one. And we'll go around the second one here in the same manner. And you can see that one is spreading out nicely as well. They're not going to be perfect. This one is not moving as well, and it might be because the resin is a little bit too warm. It might have gotten a little bit warmer. Maybe I went over it a little bit longer with my lighter, and it heated it up a little bit more than the others. So this one seems to be moving a little bit more slowly. I'll show you in a minute here. Get my big hands out of the way. You can kind of see this one didn't quite bloom out like the other two did. And now, of course, I'm having fun trying to get this out of here. So we get a little shake. Come on. Of course, you got to be careful when you do that because usually it squirts all over the place. All right. I'm just going to let that go for now. We'll see how that spreads, and we'll deal with it in a minute. And now I'm going to go with the lighter blue next. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's do the yellow. So you'll notice that the yellow is pushing the dark blue in a little bit towards the center as it expands. So I find these alcohol inks by Let's Resin tend to expand, for the most part, pretty nicely. Now you'll notice how the yellow really pushed that blue, and maybe there was something with the Sapphire Blue. I was at the end of the bottle. I didn't shake it good enough. I don't know. It just really got pushed in. Now we'll use the lighter. This is a blue-green. I believe it's cerulean, but I may not be saying that right. I'm just going to put a little drop in the middle. And that'll push out. And I'm just going to go around the edges here. And it's fun to watch this take on a life of its own. It really is. Art at its finest. Art and chemistry. I didn't do good in high school chemistry. I did better in college chemistry. You can see that's moving really nicely in the one on the right and the one on the bottom. A little slower on that one on the top left. I'm just adding a little bit more blue. I want to try to fill these gaps because what's going to happen is this alcohol ink in the resin is going to pull in towards the center, and there'll be a lot of white in the margins, which is fine because I'm going to actually put some green to give it a little bit of a leafy, more floral effect. But I do want to try to fill in some of this white space, and I don't want to lose my blue, my darker blue. And then, of course, knowing when to stop is always important, and that's an issue I have. All right, next we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the green. Just going to drop this in. And of course, what would it be if I didn't get alcohol ink or something on my gloves? And I better move these alcohol ink bottles. I know I'm going to knock them over. It will happen, trust me. Get that last dab in there. I don't like to get too close to the edges because I'm trying to avoid getting alcohol ink all the way up onto the edges of the silicone mold. It does have an impact on how it blooms, so I'm trying to kind of not do that. Now I'm going to add a little bit of white. Again, this is a white alcohol ink by Just Resin, same box from the Rainbow colors. And I'm going to be a little stingy. I'm not doing a lot of white here. The white will overwhelm all of the other colors if I add too much. So I'm going to be a little sparing with the white. It's now pouring down rain. I'm not sure if you guys can hear all that rain in the background. We've had a really rainy spring here in winter and spring here in Southwest Florida. We don't typically get much rain in January and February, but it's been very rainy. I'm going to be using the white Ocean White Let's Resin paste for my blooms, for the petals, for the white portion of the petals. Check the temperature here. 40. Okay. That's about where I wanted to be. Wanted to test 40. You shouldn't use a whole lot of pigment paste when you're doing the white for your petals. If it's too thick, it'll sink to the bottom, and you'll get blobs on the bottom of the mold, which will actually end up being the top of your mold. So what you're seeing right now is the bottom of the mold, and the top is on the underside. So if your petal resin is too thick, see, I told you I was going to knock something over. Thank goodness it didn't go in my mold. If it's too thick, it's just going to sink to the bottom. So you want to get this to about the consistency of honey, is what I've heard other people say. I'm trying this temperature method today. And I don't want it to be too thin, but I don't want it to be too thick either. But I'm getting a little nervous about the temperature here. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. We'll see. But I do want this to be right around 40 and thick enough so that I don't get these blobs everywhere. Next, I'm going to take and put this into a piping bag, which is what you use for like cupcake decorating. These are pretty cheap. And it's a nice way to control what you're putting down on your molds. So I'm going to stick this over a cup. See, knocking stuff over. I'm going to pour this in, put it into a cup, and then I'll pour my white resin mixture, my ocean white, into the piping bag. Get as much of that in there as I can. Again, resin's expensive, so you want to make sure that you're using as much of the resin as you can. Clean that off. Keeps the mess down. Now I'm going to just take this out. Resin's in the bottom. And I'm going to roll the top a little bit. See, I've got a lot of room, so I'm going to roll that top down. I'm going to clip it off. And then I'm going to twist it. I'll show you that here in a minute. You can kind of see the reflection in the mold. Sorry, big arm in the way again. Clip that off. Try to fast forward through some of this stuff sometimes so you don't have to see all this, but anyway. Okay, next I'm going to cut the tip off of this. Hopefully I don't cut it too big or too small. And I should test this on a paper towel before I spread it, but just to see the thickness, if it's going to be the right thickness on the line. All right, let's get going. Okay, and my little petal swirls here might be too thin and maybe needed to be a little bit darker, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to start in the middle and swirl. Kind of squeezing on my bag here on my hand. I don't have it quite as twisted as I like, but it'll work. And again, I'm not putting the petals all the way up, this white stuff all the way up to the edges of the coaster mold. I'm just going out towards the far margins as far as I can without touching it, because we want the white to be able to spread out and bloom into the petals, if you will. So I'm going to add a little extra in here and see what happens. We'll know at the end. So let me put that out of the way here. And now I'm going to go around kind of like the face of the clock, and I'm going to pull in from all sides. So 12, 3, 6, do 9, and then 2, 4, well, 8, 4, and 10. I try to make sure that I do it in clockwise motion, otherwise I forget what I'm doing. Oh, that one spread a little funny. So 12 and 6, 3 o'clock and 9. 12 and 6, 3 and 9. And there's 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8, 10, as I pulled in. Now I'm going to push out in between those. So I'm going from the center out instead of from the outside in. Now I'm going from the inside out. Again, it's kind of hard to see with my big old hand in the way here. Oh, this one I forgot to do. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Oh, I'm going outside. I should have been inside there. Oh well. This one will have a little different shape to it, but no big deal. It's art. That's why I'm saying. Do it as it were a face of the clock, and you won't mess up. It's easy to get distracted when you're doing this stuff too. Very easy, especially me. Now I'm pulling out. So that would be like maybe 5 after 1. just going around here and pulling this. You can see how pretty, look at those centers on that, how pretty they are. And the petals are starting to bloom. You can see the white spreading. I'm just going to give this a swirl in the middle here. I'll do that to each of these. Then I don't put my dotting tool all the way down to the bottom when I'm doing this. I just go in a little bit. Oh, I see a renegade piece of gold there. Another little swirl. Sometimes this is where a little dab of white in the middle can be pretty too. It keeps that center nice and clear. All right, that is really all I can do with this for today. Again, you can see that it's starting to bloom. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a hit with my lighter. Get any bubbles out. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here, and tomorrow I'll mix the black that we'll put on the back, and I will show you that when we come back tomorrow. Stay tuned. Okay, we're back. I've mixed the black resin. It's again, Let's Resin Black, 1:1 ratio. And I let it set for 5 minutes after I was finished. And now I'm just going around and I'm spreading this out to the margins. I'm not quite touching the margins on this just yet, but just pushing this out. Okay, it is 24 hours later. These are the backs of the 3 coasters. I've demolded them already, the front. The blooms actually turned out really nicely. Very pleased with them. The white did work, even though it was kind of thin. The black looks a little thin on the back, not sure what happened there, but the petals turned out really nicely. So I think we have got a wrap here. Hope you enjoyed the lesson today, and please be sure to click on the subscribe button below and hit the like for me, and I will see you again on the next video.